Are you gonna give me orders?
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoy Drogo casting. But now we have Roddy once again, which I'm sure many people are very excited for. I certainly am. Love casting with you, Roddy. So glad to have you here. How are you doing since this is the first time I've talked to you?
Yeah, I know. I'm doing good. I feel like today is off to a pretty good start. I really enjoyed watching you and Drogo cast that series. Like, maybe they weren't the longest games, like I said in the break as well, but I still thought that was an exciting series to watch. And as a fan of the game, I always just want to be entertained. And if it gets close and you don't know who's going to win, I'm already happy as a viewer. And yeah, obviously I was a bit disappointed with how things went yesterday, right? I truly had high hopes for yesterday. We had relatively one-sided series. I just hope we get more lucky today. And I am, of course, very happy to be casting with you as well, Jess.
Oh, thank you. We're getting into a hopefully amazing ZVZ. In the top left, he is the blue Zerg, soO. We're at Freak of Freaks and representing Korea.
And in the right bottom side, we're looking at the main base of our Polish Zerg player representing Ego Esports. It is Elazer. One hell of a run so far from him, obviously eliminating, well, dropping Cyril to the lower bracket earlier in this tournament. And especially if you would have joined in the middle of game 4, you'd be like, oh, well, Cyril's going to be the Elazer. That's kind of what I expected. Elazer said, no, miraculous victory on Golden Wall. And ever since that moment, he's been unstoppable. And even last weekend, like, I kind of thought that Hero Marine was going to be the Elazer. I felt relatively confident about that prediction. But Elazer, with a couple of maybe questionable attacks, but they just worked out perfectly. Got the job done again. And there's something special about Elazer, right? When he's on a run in tournaments, like, he's someone that can drop out in the round of 32 or can drop out in the round of 16. But if he's feeling it, if he's on a roll, it just seems like there is no stopping him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, whether it's on a roll in just series throughout the days, throughout the weeks, or on a roll in a series, which is what happened in Hero Marine. At first game, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, Hero Marine, that's, doing pretty well. And then Elazer was like, okay, game 2 is mine, game 3 is more mine, and game 4 is like all mine. This guy's making very aggressive decisions, but it's working out. And that's just like always a beautiful feeling when the caster's like, I don't know, man. And you're like, no, I got this. That's what Elazer was doing.
To be honest, when I was watching that game on Golden Wall between Elazer and Hero Marine, I was also like, I don't know, Elazer, you're down in Marcus, 66 drones, you're gonna like actually attack off creep. And then it just somehow works out, right? Because Gabe is expecting him to be on a higher work count, overstepped his boundaries a bit. And it's just something magical about Elazer. He had it a couple of times as well in different tournaments. We saw it at GSL versus the World last summer. Like, if he's on a roll, like, I don't really know how he always does it, but he's just damn good at winning and closing out games. And I hope for him that he's having one of these days here today, because, I already shared this with you in the break. Ever since we had that crazy opening weekend, right, of the TSL 5, where all the non-Koreans were beating the Koreans, and everyone's like, oh my God, it's upset city. Since that moment, we've had 7 series between Korean players and non-Korean players, and the score is 7-0 in best of 5 in favor of the Koreans. So things definitely went back to normal. Let's see if Elazer can stop that streak.
I mean, that is kind of a very common story for these mixed tournaments, where it's like, we get the hype, we think this is the time to shine, and then maybe they do a little, and the Koreans, they're just like, no, we're going to win. So is that going to happen here? soO kind of surprised us with his win over Innovation, a few weeks ago, and has been, on a roll since for himself in this tournament. And I do think that he's going to be quite the opposition for Elazer, but I also love that in this game, this CVZ, we get to always bring up that lovely little story, the rivalry of what's better, European ZVZ or Korean ZVZ.
Yeah, it always feels like all the other Zergs are rallying behind their guy as well, right, from the region. I'll never forget when soO actually beat Cero at IM Katowice, which of course was a big victory, but it was really cool, and I wish this was captured on camera. But apparently, like, all the Koreans, they were gathered around the PC, I think of Solar, and multiple of them were standing there, they were watching the game, and all of them were just cheering and clapping out loud when soO managed to defeat Cero. So it was a real cool thing, and there's definitely like a little friendly rivalry between the scenes as well. Now let's talk about what's happening in this game, because obviously everything started off very normal, no crazy pool timings, nothing weird, couple of links, safety baiting nests, it's all good. Now we've got the lair go down for Elazer, while soO actually decided to drop down an evolution chamber.
So he's going to be going into the typical +1 and Roach Warren. Elazer is doing a very good job denying the scouting so far of his, not just lair, but also his gases. It is maybe a little suspicious not to see the evolution chamber at the front of Elazer's base. But I'm not sure that's enough to really like say, okay, he is going for a fast lair. The Ling of Elazer gets in and gets confirmation on the Roach play here, but there's soO's Ling finally getting into the main base, seeing the Spire as soon as it's put down.
Yeah, if you talk about a good moment to scout, right? Lair finishes up, Spire goes down, and here is the single Zergling of soO in the main base. He immediately drops his own Spire as well. Now I wonder what kind of I feel like he's got all the time in the world to decide how he wants to play against his Spire. I think building Roaches right now is probably not the correct call, unless he decides to go for maybe a Nidus play. I saw Nemchar pull off a really cool Nidus build the other day where he scouted the Spire and he's like, all right, it was just nothing but Roaches, you know? It wasn't even like, he's gonna drop Queens or build extra Queens and get a couple of drones on the other side of the map as well to build Spore Crawlers. No, he just went all out on Roach Nidus and basically killed 50 drones. I think that's something that soO could potentially do in this game as well.
Could, and I think that he is going to do it. I saw more queens making. Of course, you have to make more queens just in general, but it seems like it's going to be the strongest strategy. You can't really go for like that hatchery-based all-in by the time you scout the Spire, usually, I would say, but you can certainly add on the Nidus Worm. The Ling Baneling aggression going okay so far for soO, but he is going to be pushed back as Elazer continues to collect more Lings, and his mutas are about to pop. With the queens coming, even some Spore Crawlers can be made depending on where the Nidus Worm is going to be created. It's something that Elazer has to be aware of, like the possibility, because the Spire was scouted so quickly.
Exactly. Like, we all know that Zerg players like to punish other Zerg players when they go for greedy Spires. What I'm worried about is that Elazer doesn't see the entirety of his main base. This is something that freaks me out, because we know how this goes, right? The first Nidus is outside, but then the second or the third Nidus can suddenly be in the corner of a main base. And if Roaches pop in the main base of Elazer, I think he's in all the trouble. So I hate that he doesn't have any vision of the corner of his base.
That is very scary, but it's also scary is that this Nidus Worm, which was in vision, Elazer could have gotten his Lings on top of it, actually gets up and running, is going to provide another access point for another Nidus Worm.
So many
the queens are charging, they got transfused, and they are already on top of that third. A single Spine Crawler with two more making, not quite done, and Elazer says, I can't hold this, and sends all of his Lings across the map.
Yeah, and he's right about that. I think like that's just an army that's actually just too strong to fight. Now this counterattack, I don't know if it's going to work out that well. soO's obviously going to have a couple of safety Roaches to fall back on. There is a Spore Crawler that he could potentially cancel, and that's nice. That's going to allow the mutas to get some good damage done in this natural eventually as well. But there's going to be a moment where Elazer is going to be forced to fight this army, right? And I guess this is that moment when he's got a couple of Spine Crawlers and he's got 3 more going up. I gotta say, I love the counterattack because I thought he was in all the trouble. Now it feels like maybe there is some potential here for Elazer.
I think so as well. I mean, he was able to buy enough time, with the queens also being as slow as they are, to get the Spine Crawlers in the natural. Now, all of them are finishing up. The 2 that were building in the third even replanted themselves on creep, because why not, I guess, in case there's a retreat. They are going to start dying, of course, but this could actually help, as soO is pretty all-in. He's trying to rebuild some of his drone count, but he really would like to break this, or certainly get the cancel on the other third. But I got a link on it.
This is actually an insane amount of Spine Crawlers. A couple of them are going to go down. Of course, the queens have been alive for so long, so they do have so much transfuse energy to work with. It seems like Elazer feels it's now or never. He's going to fight the queens. He gets one of them. The second queen goes down. I love how he goes for the queens with most energy, but now his Spore Crawler is going up as well. And I just think that Elazer is running out of steam at this point.
There's so many queens. I mean, the Roaches did not get all taken out by the Spine Crawlers, which maybe would have given him a chance. And that is going to be soO's victory. Elazer, I'm actually uncertain as to how much he was preparing mentally for that Nidus Worm. The fact that he didn't see it when the Overlord was on top of it, and it does typically come around your bases, not so much in the main base, or it could have come into the main base, and he didn't have Overlords there either. Feels like a really big missed opportunity. To see it, then be able to build around it, to deny it for an extra 20, 30 seconds, that can be so huge.
Yeah, especially when the scout was so picture perfect for soO, right? Like right on the moment the lair finishes up, Spire goes down, Ling is there. That really does make all the difference at this level, because now soO has like a solid 45 seconds to think about what is the best way for him to tackle the mutas that will obviously come out of that Spire. And he decided to just keep building queens. And yeah, he didn't even get too carried away with the Nidus. Didn't even go for like, let's try to get the second Nidus up in the main base. He's just like, no, I'll just keep building queens and Roaches. I scouted this at the right moment. My queen count is going to be overwhelming. And he was very right, because at first I was like, sometimes they do that with 4 or 5 queens. Then maybe if you buy some time with the counterattack, you're like, okay, now suddenly we've got like 10 plus mutas. Maybe they can win the fight. but that was just an insane amount of queens so early on. And obviously, since the eventual fight happened so much later, now all of a sudden there are queens with like 200 energy, 150 energy. Yeah, you just don't fight that.
Yeah, you really can't. I mean, you could maybe try and take out the roaches, but at that point, even the queens themselves are a problem.
Yeah, they're gonna kill spine crawlers too.
Yeah, eventually. Take a little while, but it happened. So good choice, very good choice by soO. And Elazer just maybe not respecting the potential. Maybe he thought about it, was like, nah, he's not going to do it. But that would actually surprise me, because as much as we know Elazer as an aggressive Zerg amongst a bunch of maybe European Zergs that are macro, we know Korean Zergs just in general as aggressive. So soO picking a Nidus for him does not seem, off-brand.
No, and soO is not exactly the guy that you expect to drop an infestation pit immediately and go hive. And he's like, you know what, I'll just defend for the next 15 minutes and get infested Viper. Like, no, that doesn't sound like soO at all. Like, there's a couple European Zergs that I can see respond like that. But we know that soO is somebody who loves to attack, loves to make a lot of units. And I mean, I'm not going to say he's not a fan of the spellcasters, but he's even stated in interviews in the past where he's like, it's just not really my thing. Like, to sit back and rely on fungo, on parasitic bomb. That's just not the soO we know, and that's not the soO that had all the success that he did have in the GSL all those years.
It's a lot based off his aggression. We're on Eternal Empire, one of the largest maps in the map pool. On the bottom left, we have the blue Zerg, soO.
And right top side, looking at the main base of the man who's down 0-1, representing Ego Esports, it is Elazer.
Yay!
Yeah,
I certainly respect the idea to change up and be the guy who kind of controls the game, like a Muta player usually is. So I do like the idea from Elazer, but I wonder if he's been smacked out of that idea a little bit.
Yeah, I feel Mutas are still powerful in this matchup. I really do. And I think in general, if you can just hide it a bit better, even if it's just like an additional 40 or 50 seconds, it really does change everything. It makes it so much harder, because we can see Aspire is going down and Elazer is obviously not building anything because he's banking resources. But if you're soO and you don't know the Spire is there, you're still worried, right? Like, is he doing some super weird link timing? Are there banelings morphing somewhere? So then you're just busy checking a whole bunch of things that don't need to be checked, because none of that is happening. If it gets scouted immediately, soO's like, all right, no, not a worry in the world. The only thing I need to do is deal with some Muta. So just, I think hiding it better will go a long way already.
Very true. I do think Elazer was really risky because he didn't add on like a fake evolution chamber when you're supposed to build a roach game. He didn't make a bunch of lings to apply the pressure to soO to get kind of like the attention on the defense, right? He really did just like say, okay, I'm not going to die, and then I'm just going to go right to Spire. Which maybe shaves off a couple of seconds and is actually worth it in some games. But in that game, I think soO is already a little like, okay, what are you doing? And then, yeah, just made sure to get a ling inside that main base, which was perfectly timed again. Right?
I mean, when you describe it like that, you are totally right. But I'm listening to you and I'm like, that does kind of sound like Elazer, doesn't it? Like, just like, I'm not going to do any of the things that I'm maybe supposed to do to sell this a bit better. No, let's just be greedy, make mutas as quickly as possible, and let's see where it takes me. Like, I do like, as amazing as Elazer is, he's definitely kind of crazy in his gameplay too.
Yes, he is, but that can actually work out in his favor if he's really feeling it. Like there seems to be this change with the aggressive players, no matter what race, where suddenly their aggression that looks a little bit silly, just like, okay, why you keep doing this? It suddenly just starts working all the time. And if that happens, then absolutely go with the flow. For game one to not work out so well, I mean, that is just one game here. Elazer certainly will have other tricks, but so will soO. I mean, soO is an aggressive player in his own right. Maybe not tricky necessarily, but he is certainly willing to do hatchery-based roach attacks, early pools, whatever.
Maybe not too tricky, but just great mechanics all around, right? Like, soO just has a few more units than most people do because he's so damn good in those first 6, 7, 8 minutes of basically every single matchup. Like, if you don't keep a close eye on what soO is actually doing, he's going to hit fast and hard. There is once again a really quick layer. I feel like it's even quicker than in the previous game, if I'm not mistaken. Like, this was 3 minutes and 25 seconds.
You might be right about that. I'm actually kind of looking at soO's evolution chamber timing as well. Now he was able to deny the first ling, and I guarantee he was hoping to deny the second ling this time. But the first one gets in there and sees the lair. Now soO, I mean, he could try and go for just like a ling pressure and really force Elazer to like pick and choose where his gas goes. But I think he'll want to re-scout on that main, just in case Elazer changes things up because he was scouted.
I don't know, man. He's taking extra extractors. He's still just building drones. I don't see a roach warren going down. I have the feeling we could be very well looking at an almost identical game of the first one. Because if I'm still, and he does get a follow-up scout and he sees the Spire, why change it, right? It works so damn well. And the Elazer plays so greedy. Look at this. He's going up to 56 drones and a Spire, no roach warren. He must be so confident that he can do things a lot better than the way that it played out in the first one, because this is kind of insane.
So, yeah, I do think that he still wants that second scout, which he is not really going to scout the Spire this time, but I think with the gases and just everything else, he'll figure it out. But yeah, just do the same thing. What I'm worried about is that Elazer is okay with the same thing, thinking, oh, I should have been able to deny the first Nidus Swarm, because he really should have been able to, but that's not a guarantee in any game.
And this time it's also not a Nidus. A couple of Banelings show up from soO. Now soO is just going for that hatchery attack that we mentioned, because this time, I mean, he's like, maybe I start the units even before that Spire goes down. This is obviously a really good exchange already for soO, but this was always going to be a good exchange for him, because if soO had like 32 army supply, Elazer had like 10 Zerglings and a safety Baneling. Now one more Queen is out of position. What a fantastic start here for soO. And if you're Elazer, you can't be feeling good about this.
Yeah, I'm worried that Elazer also was hoping for the lair response, figuring he had a bit more time, but now, of course, he's seen the roaches with the Overlord. He has been trying to repair those spine crawlers, and I guess with the full wall, they will actually get up and ready to go. So that I'm not so worried about anymore. The full wall is actually making me think maybe Elazer's got this, but we'll see how long it lasts.
If I'm soO right now, I start my own lair, actually. Like, I feel like he's always going to get good damage done here, and obviously Elazer building 6 spine crawlers is already a big investment. I don't know if I want to stay hatchery tech forever, though, because then soO is putting himself in a position where he has to win the game here. And I don't know if that's going to be that easy, with the Mutas already out.
Yeah. I'm surprised that soO tries to continue committing to this. I was with you on the lair. Immediately start a lair once you realize the wall is going to buy way too much time. The meters are out. They pop off the Banelings, which are looking for better hits on the spine crawlers. The spine crawlers are going down. The roach numbers are not super convincing. Lings might be able to do some drone damage, but they're not even really getting on top of the drones yet.
What I love, though, is that soO is putting a couple of Zerglings on that hatchery in the left top side. It's very important for Elazer that he saves this, because now I think that soO has done a decent amount of damage. He's going to run a couple of Zerglings into the main base, too. As long as he gets his hatchery, I think it's good enough for soO, and soO will get the hatchery. Well done. And he was already droning up behind all of this. He's building a couple of queens. I'd love to see a spore per base now, by the way, soO. I feel like it's about time to maybe get a spore per base. He wants to buy a little more time with his Zerglings, and he's actually going to succeed in doing so.
I love your point about the third hatchery, and I absolutely agree, but soO still isn't adding on a lair. He has like 7 overlords on the map that will eventually go down, like 4 of them already have, and he's going to +1 carapace first and foremost for his use of minerals and gas. Like, this lair is very, very late. He's going to have to hope the Ling aggression continues pulling Elazer back, because sure, he'll be able to defend 3 bases, but I'm worried for his later game here, like minute 9 or 10. That's what I'm worried about.
The thing is, though, I feel like Elazer is going to have to bring the Mutas home. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to keep his hatchery alive. And Elazer can't obviously stay on 2-base Mutas forever, right? So as these Mutas are going to show up, he's got a couple of Lings at home. But if I'm soO, I'm sending my Lings to the other side of the map immediately. That's what he does as well. And Elazer needs to get home ASAP. Because if he loses the hatchery again, even if it's just a cancel, I feel like that's disastrous, man. Like 2-base Muta, it's just not really a thing, right? Not 8 minutes into the game.
Yeah, it's a tricky way to play, considering that you're not going to get popped off by just a couple of Banelings and before +1 carapace is done, but it might work out. Now, this time it doesn't. The hatchery gets a little weak, but ultimately gets saved. The Mutas still aren't doing any more damage on this side of the map.
Wow.
I was wondering if soO was going to go for his own Spire play, and apparently it's going to happen. That is a very bold move, but considering that he's going to have all 6 gases mining, and of course that +1 carapace immediately on his Mutas, he might be able to make this work.
Elazer is so close to scouting the Spire, he didn't see it. I feel like seeing it would be massive. I also like the idea of Elazer going up to 4 bases now already with all the map control these Mutas are giving him. Yeah. I mean, I think Elazer is, I think, in an all-right spot. I know he's down 10 workers, but obviously he's going to have that 4th base with the rich Vespian gas as well. That's going to kick in eventually. Just scouting the Spire would really go a long way, and I think this time he should be able to see it. Hell yeah. Well, that's an amazing scout for Elazer. Like, soO is so crazy. Who builds Mutas when the other guy has 23 Mutas? Come on. 23!
Yeah, like usually you'll see a muta response if the muta is like the spire's halfway done. Like that's totally fine. Maybe even if the spire is done and you just start yours. But this has been a long time that your opponent has been able to build mutas. This is it was supposed to be a trickier call, but even without directly scouting the spire, I feel like Elazer would eventually been like, okay, like where's your roaches? What's going on here? He is still committing to +2 attack instead of that +1 But actually, they both are committing to attack. Oh. Of course, we don't really think of the IS option that often because we don't see it that often, but the Corruptor choice.
Yeah, that makes more sense because
Yes.
like he was never gonna catch up in the muta count. But this feels to me a little bit like building Corruptors against a Protoss that's sitting on, like 20 Phoenixes now. I don't know who would ever build 20 Phoenix chests. Like that sounds insane to me. But I think like you need an insane amount of Corruptors, and I think you're going to need an armor upgrade as well on them. Like, Corruptors are obviously good against mutas, but 10 Corruptors are not gonna fight 25 mutas. I think this muta count is just too high for this kind of a response.
He's gonna have 15 Corruptors, actually. He canceled the +1 missile attack for them as well. Or, sorry, a flyer attack. But instead, like, invest that gas into a couple more Corruptors as well as centrifugal hooks. So he's looking, I guess, to really win the ground war more often. And while he does have that Carapace upgrade, Elazer's already working on his +2 for both of his units. Like, I'm not sure this is really going to be... I see all, like, the game plans, like, the ideas that could work, but I think Elazer's going to be fine against it.
I've seen these fights before, but then I've seen them in smaller numbers. Like, I don't really know exactly how it goes now, because obviously, Corruptors, if you would, like, focus fire, you're going to have massive overkill, so you're going to have to attack move more often than not. The same can be said for the mutas, of course. I think, like, if they keep engaging and disengaging, that's obviously better for the Corruptors, because they have way more range. But I am really curious to see, like, how many Corruptors would soO need to really commit to a fight on the other side of the map. I feel like he needs more than 19, right? Like, it's 34 mutas with +2 soon. Like, there's no way that 19 Corruptors will cut it.
You're right. I have not seen this dynamic too often. A year and a half ago at this point, maybe 2 years almost, I know TLO was really praising, a lot of people on the European server were praising the Corruptor style, but we never really get to see it work out as well as they were like hyping it up. So I was like, maybe it was just a phase. But maybe it really is that good. But those upgrades are going to be a big difference maker. And we actually have the war going on right now. So we'll see who's going to win out here. You've got 36 mutas to 18 Corruptors. And I guess Elazer isn't going to bother seeing how the end of this game, the end of that battle works out, because it's maybe more of the distraction on the ground. Plus, he has to run away from these queens, which can provide very, very crucial transfuses.
Yeah,
he's going to take the fight.
The muta count is just too high. I don't think he should really be fighting near queens, but he did get a Lynx around on the queens. The Corruptors are really running super low on HP. The muta count is still so high. And, well, numbers don't lie, right? It turns out that 34 is way better than 19, as GG gets called. Okay, that was a pretty bizarre game, too.
It was, yeah. I think... See, I figured the idea was more like you'll scare away the mutas, which didn't work because they weren't scared. But you scare away the mutas and try and win more like the ground war, which can happen even if it's muta versus muta. But as good as the Corruptors were defensively when they had their extra range working out and just kind of pushing the mutas off, apparently they don't win against the mutas with their upgrades, with their glaive bounce, plus the higher numbers. The Corruptors still don't work out in that regard. So I don't know if this was something that soO has practiced before. And this was just a difference of like he didn't have enough economy to do what he wanted, or this was just like I'm committed to this, but that was a very weird game.
Like, I think if he would have just made the Corruptors defensively to make sure that he wouldn't take too much damage from all these mutas, because mutas do kind of suck against Corruptors when you just want to fly in, pick up like an extractor or a couple drones and fly away again, because then you'll keep losing mutas while you retreat, right? The Corruptors will always have the final volley because of the range. Or... and like basically use them defensively and then also get infestors, or maybe go up to Hive and get a parasitic bomb or two, because against 33 mutas, like even if parasitic bomb only affects all of them for 1 second, that is an insane amount of damage, right? And that will also allow Corruptors to maybe win a fight. But to just go into the middle of the map and then fight that many mutas, maybe he thought that Elazer would make like a decent amount of mutas, but then Elazer would make something else. Maybe he didn't expect to actually go up against like 35 mutalisks, which I guess is kind of an insane number. That's 70 supply of mutas. That's a lot.
Plus maybe the +2 finish, kind of an awkward timing. He was bringing his queens, so maybe he also just misjudged how slow they would be, because the transfuses would be very, very helpful. And and all that. But yeah, it was a very awkward fight. I absolutely agree about the defensive properties of the Corruptors, where you build up another type of army behind the defensive wall that they can make with the help of other static defenses and queens. But being out in the map like that, that was not going to work out. So, hey, Elazer, his Spire keeps getting scouted, but he made it work that game, so maybe he's going to try it again.
Next map is a lot smaller though, right? Everdream is going to be our third map in this series. Now, you know, what soO did on Eternal Empire, if the scenarios are the exact same, which obviously it's never going to be because every game of StarCraft is unique, but he would do this on Everdream, it hits so much quicker, so much harder, that I think Elazer would end up losing way more drones. So if Elazer wants to do the same thing again, he better heights it a little better. I gotta say though, it's gotta feel good to play that greedy, get scouted, still get away with it, and actually in the end win the game. I mean, well done.
Yeah, we have the opposite of a greedy game this time though. In the top right, he is the red Zerg, Elazer.
Yay!
And in the bottom left of Everdream, look at the main base of a Korean Zerg who tries to keep the winning streak of the Koreans against the non-Koreans alive in this tournament. It is soO.
For that 12 pool, Elazer, I mean, he's got to be aware of this. You pointed out immediately upon seeing the map, Everdream. It's their shortest map. soO is aggressive or no match point yet. He's got to be mentally prepared for this possibility, maybe even consider it himself. But most defenses against the 12 pool do start with the 16 hatch. So Elazer is still going to do the typical macro opener.
Do you think that soO is going to go for a crazy 12 pool where he pulls drones and stuff as well, or is it just 12 pool expand?
Ask me in 4 seconds.
All right. Well, Jazz, there are
expand.
many ways to play out a 12 pool, right? You know, you can leave one drone behind, you can leave a couple drones behind, or you can leave just one drone behind. So this is kind of the Lambo build that we saw at Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. He used it against Serral. Since I think Scarlet also used this build, of course, in the GSL. Elazer is no stranger to this. Well, it's going to be a short one. I'm nervous. I'm actually nervous for both of them. I hate
wow.
this kind of stuff.
Whoa! I've never seen this response before. Oh my gosh.
What?
He's gonna try and wall. The wall doesn't really work very comfortably.
Oh, no. Can you get a full... Is this a full... No, that's not a full wall. I mean, it's gonna buy time, but it's not a full wall. There's no way this is a full wall.
Yeah, that's not a full wall.
I think he canceled then, right? Oh my god, imagine if you were...
Right?
You gotta cancel this stuff. You gotta cancel the stuff. Why don't you cancel the Evo chamber? What are you doing, Elazer?
What is happening? He tries to do the drone drill now, but his lings are so...
What?
I mean, they're just not on the way. There's those spine
minute.
crawlers. The hatchery is finally canceled, but it's way too late. This is such a weird response. Why did he do this?
I mean, he's dead. Yeah.
We were like tripping over our words because it was just like what is happening? Like the hatchery block in general might have been a cool idea if it worked. But then as soon as you realize it doesn't.
Yeah, if you actually get the full wall off, like a full wall, that would be amazing. Like we would have been screaming like, oh my god, Elazer, you're a genius. I have seen him in the past. Like, do you remember the time where it was like they leave 3 drones behind and then they do the spine crawler rush, right? Then Elazer actually created a really weird wall with evos. He did that together with Lambo. They practiced it many times. And it just buys enough time for him to then actually cancel those evos and then fight the army straight up. I don't know if the idea was here to either buy a lot of time and like create a little detour for the units of soO, or if it was to full wall and it failed. I don't know which one he was going for because I've never seen this. Either response, he needs to cancel those Evo chambers. There is, in no universe can you allow 2 evolution chambers to finish up when your opponent is ultra all in. And I don't care how good you drone drill or how good the fight is in the end. If you lose 2 drones there to 2 Evo chambers, you're super dead. You're just super dead.
Yeah, exactly. A third one was busy building a hatchery, which got canceled only at the last second. So you're already farther behind in drones than you should have been to try and combat this. And you're still waiting on lings. That did not buy enough time for him to like have lings protecting his drones, something like that. And of course, he couldn't also build spine crawlers. I mean, I'm glad you brought up the game where he did do that cool evolution chamber thing. You know, give him some credit there. But I think he just thought it could be a full wall. Yeah, it wasn't.
Because he also even canceled it, right? Like if the idea was not to make like if it was just to buy some extra seconds for himself there, then I don't think you're going to try to re-wall immediately. So I really think the goal was here to indeed get a full wall of going. And that would have been super cool. I mean, StarCraft is a brutal game, right? I feel like he was literally inches away from looking like a genius. and now he kind of looks silly. That's a bit devastating. And all of a sudden, you're down 1-2 in the upper bracket of TSL 5. A win in this series, it feels so massive because then you're guaranteed top 3 of this tournament. Like that is such a cool little thing to walk away with. Like no matter what happens in the next 2 series, then you're top 3 of TSL 5. That's amazing. Now all of a sudden you're down 1-2. He needs to bring it back. Let's see if you can look like a genius this game. It is Elazer.
I have some bad news. I am not in game, so I'm doing this off the PGM. Yeah, a little bit of a misstep from our admin, but in the bottom left, going for another early pull, he is soO.
Well, we're at the exact same time. I'm looking at the PGM as well.
Cool.
Yeah, it's 40. Okay. I think it's going to work out. Now, we've got another 12 pool, obviously, as you can see as well. Let's see what Elazer has in store for us this time. Man, I am actually... Like, I have a really hard time getting over a moment where I see somebody, like, let 2 Evo chambers finish, right? Like, it felt that at that point, no matter what happened, he was already dead. And obviously, like, the idea was maybe to get a full wall going and stuff. But if that doesn't work out, you can still fight this. You can still defend. But the moment those Evo chambers finish up, you can't anymore. It's just over at that point. Here we go again. It's the exact same build. Elazer, show us what you got. And please don't go double Evo. Well, if you go double Evo, cancel them, okay?
Yeah, do it the correct way, basically. I mean, he's got some time to mentally prepare once more as the Overlord sees the incoming drone train, and he is going to once again cancel that natural hatchery. He's going to block it out just for half a second, really, before the drone drill happens.
This is really cool. This is something that Serral tried to do in one of the games, and Serral was a bit late. But obviously, Lynx cannot go through. The drones can go through, but I love this by Elazer, and I think that Lambo said if you do this properly, it's just a free win. And if I look at the amount of drones that Elazer has here, this does indeed start to look really good. He's got a couple of Lynx on the way. He's got a Spine on the way. That worked out really well, but he needs to buy some more time for his Zerglings.
They are about to pop out. I think he might have just done enough. Spine crawlers are on the way as well for both parties, but that was really cool. That's what we missed, actually, from last time we saw it, where the drones weren't pulled fast enough. The Lynx pop out, one gets trapped, and the drones are still trying to make this work, but also trying to protect their Spine crawler. I mean, we've got two different parties going on left and right, but Elazer's buying a heck of a lot of time.
If I'm soO, I just fight here, indeed. Because he's got way more Zerglings. He should drone the drills, though. I feel like he's actually preventing his own Lynx from fighting. I think soO really should have gone all out there, because he had so many more Zerglings than Elazer had. And I think at that point, you just gotta go for it. And now Elazer is obviously mining so much more. And now the Spine is done. I think soO missed his opportunity there. Really good initial defense by Elazer near that little mineral wall on the bottom of Zen. I don't see what soO can ever do here.
Yeah, that was super cool. I'm glad we got to see it finally, like, really, in action with the drone pull fast enough.
Yeah.
As that was super cool. And then Elazer did a great job buying time with a little ragtag group of units off the left side. The Spine crawler is awkward because it's going to force Elazer's hand. You just can't wait patiently for soO to come to him, but he's going to have an extra queen, probably. I don't think the hatchery will die enough to do that.
I think what is important here is that Elazer either forces the fight and keep his hatchery alive, or if the hatchery goes down, as we got another fight, then he saves money for another hatchery.
Yeah, he's a second Spine crawler, so he's going to be fine. I mean, it may be if the hatchery was being targeted this entire time to go down, but Transfuse even available, Ling's in a nice concave, second Spine crawler will eventually root, and soO is down to a very minimal amount of units. That's going to be it. Spine crawler can't do it alone.
Wow, really cool response this time by Elazer. Yeah, that worked out perfectly, right? He saw it, he canceled his hatchery, puts the drone on hold position. I think it's important to explain, maybe for the people that don't play StarCraft all the time, workers can go through other workers, even if they're on hold position and they're in a choke point, if you just click on the minerals. So what soO could have done there is obviously like send his drones through, and we saw that happen. But the Lynx, they actually have to pick off that drone that's on hold position. And then when soO actually sent his drones through, Elazer pulled all of his drones. And obviously because he was mining all along, he had way more drones. So the drone on drone fight was absolutely fantastic. And he's buying a lot of time for himself. The Spine finishes up in the main base. That was incredibly well done.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I mean, it was, last weekend, of course. Last weekend, I was like, okay, like this bought just like an extra bit of time. Is that really the goal? But seeing it with the return drone pool and realizing like, oh, okay, so this just because it captures the drones without the lings involved, and that is a very cool little thing. The free win, apparently, as Lambo says.
Yeah, well, if you try it at home, it might be a little harder than the actual free win. But hey, these are the professionals, and that means we're all tied up. And I think that's cool as well. You know, soO had a very quick and easy win, but now Elazer gets a quick and easy win as well. Hopefully, we'll go back to macroing a little bit, game 5, but. Golden Wall is going to be our final map of this upper bracket series. And what a big one it is, honestly. I feel like it changes everything, right? You drop to that lower bracket. We keep talking about it, how freaking stacked that lower bracket is. If you win this one here, you're suddenly top 3 in this entire tournament. And that's got to feel so damn good.
Absolutely. If you look at if you go back in time and just like cut off the rest of the bracket, you only look at the beginning bracket. I mean, would Elazer really have been the top 3 choice? Not for most people, but that's the same thing happened for GSO versus the World. And Elazer is just really feeling it lately. So I'm excited for him. I think he can do it.
Oh. I'd like to invite you to my party, Jess. You don't want to be part of my party?
I don't want to be part of your party, man.
Well, I mean, this is kind of like high school all over again. I send out invites, nobody shows up. Thought then you can just join off me. Anyways, here we go. Game 5. Hey, what a cool way to start TSL so far. You Thermal and Trap going to distance. Now the second series of the day is going to distance. We may not have seen the epic 30-minute plus macro games with all the cool spellcasters and like sick multi-prong attacks, but at least we have close and competitive series, and that's a victory already.
That absolutely is, especially after yesterday.
Yeah.
It was in a different way than the rest of the weekends, not anticipated. But now we're into all game 5s. I hope this trend continues. And the bottom left of Golden Wall for game number 5, we do have a Freak of Freaks, soO.
Yay! And in the bottom right, we're looking in the main base of Ego Esports Elazer, hailing from Poland. Historically, by the way, these guys have only played against each other twice. soO managed to win both series. It's a long time ago. It's not that relevant. But it was even a 2-0 and a 3-0. So before this series started, Elazer never won an official map against soO. Now he's already won 2. But look at what we got over here. It's the early pool and the super early gas. soO just does not know how to play normal, does he?
No, he does not. By the way, while we wait for this build to come into fruition, I do want to note that while TLO was mega wrong, so wrong yesterday, he is actually correct today. Elazer versus soO go to map 5, and one game was won by a 12 pool drone pool. Way to go, TLO.
Yeah, yesterday you said there wouldn't be any 3-0s, right?
Yeah.
yeah, Dario. Not your finest call.
Yeah. I think Wardy's doing well for his TLO's prediction on Wardy, but yeah, just wanted to give some props to TLO after yesterday. Didn't go so hot for him, but now we actually see the build coming into play as we have the speed already being produced. One base, you don't see the natural for a little while longer as Elazer. Drone scouts, not very popular, but can Elazer somehow still defend against this? Queen's on the ramp, always a crucial first part of Ling defense.
Yeah,
that's
it's just
kind of what
pure
I'm looking
links,
for.
right? Like, this is kind of like when I have like my 5.1k North American friend playing against me. He's like, I've been practicing a lot lately. I was like, oh, really? Show me what you got. And then this is the build I face, you know? 14 drones, nothing but Zerglings with speed. And it's obviously one of these builds that can hit so hard, so quick. This is a long map, so these overlords, they don't see these things that quickly. Elazer can actually see it. Those Zerglings were too close, as the observer is showing us as well. Sorry, guys, I got really excited. I wasn't sure if you guys saw the same thing as I saw. But this doesn't even mean everything, right? Because there's so many different openings. But it seems like Elazer is having the right idea at this point, and he's like, wait a minute, I know what's going on. Builds a spine crawler immediately. If that spine goes up, it's big. Fighting on the low ground, though, when speed finishes up, I'm getting a little worried.
I mean, at least not 2 Banelings about to roll in, right? So he is trying to get his Lings a bit of a head start, but now speed finishes. Concaves will go in favor of soO for basically the entire game. Queens do pop out, but obviously later than their ability to block the ramp. So we usually are talking more about that main base, but so far, all the action in the natural, Queen does go down, and now there it is, the main base. Can it be held by Elazer?
Well, that spine is gonna finish up, and we've got that Baneling nest as well. I think the main is fine. What is not fine is the natural. I really don't know. I mean, it's fully surrounded by Zerglings at this point. And that does put Elazer in a super tricky spot, right? Because it's gonna take a long time before you can even match the Zergling count of soO. It's not like he can just re-expand immediately. It's like, it's not that bad. Like, no, this actually seems really bad for Elazer. He's up 3 drones, but he's down a base. And I would much rather have the base.
Ling production, eventually get those drones saturated. Usually with you. Elazer's going to try the slow and steady approach here. He could actually try an all-in, but without the number of Lings, it's going to be difficult, even with your Baneling advantage. But with the Banelings, he should eventually be able to grab that natural.
Yeah, I feel like it's so difficult because I'm with you with the idea of like, why doesn't he just all in like Link Bane? But how do you get slow Banelings to the other side of the map? That's probably not going to happen. Takes way too long. If he just runs Speed Link to the other side of the map, well, guess what? soO actually has more Speed Links than Elazer at this point. So the only thing that Elazer really can do is expand. But it's safe to say that that is also a horrible scenario for him because soO's expand is already up and almost running, right? The first drones are starting to trickle in. It feels like a super bad position for Elazer to be in.
Yeah, it really does. Because, I mean, soO, really the fact that he feels comfortable is really what scares me the most. I mean, if he's uncomfortable, if he's like, oh no, he could all me at any point, and he has to kind of like add in his own Baneling nest faster and then more Lings, right? Then maybe the drone counts kind of like hover around each other. And the hatchery differences don't really matter as much. But, soO does feel safe. So he's just droning. He'll get to better saturation much faster, and yeah, Elazer's gonna have to try something tricky.
So where do you think it went wrong in the defense of Elazer? I had the feeling that the amount of drones he pulled was really bad because they were not enough to have an impact, but they were obviously enough that it really hurts to lose them. I think the moment that Queen like spawned, I think that's the moment he should have been there with like 12 or 14 drones, as crazy as that sounds, but I think you need to keep that hatchery alive.
That's the tricky part about it, is that, like, how do you keep the hatchery alive? You can definitely protect your main base, but the hatchery is a different story. I do think that maybe pulling the drones either from the get-go, as you said, enough of them to actually win, not just kind of like a couple that were really awkward, would have been a start, because then maybe the Spine Crawler can go forward a bit on the creep on the high ground and kind of help, and it's a progression from there, but that hatchery is always going to be so vulnerable. But we do sometimes have these situations, more so on the third bases than naturals, right? Where like sometimes the third base being sniped once or twice doesn't actually say game over, right? For the Zerg player, as they recover, they have a decent drone count, maybe they get a couple of Baneling connects later on. It can work out into like an okay game, as opposed to just being, nope, that's it, game over, goodbye. So, I mean, Elazer, I think he's going to try and do something tricky by going to Aspire. I like the idea. Unfortunately, soO is just beating him to it.
Yeah, it's almost. What's also concerning is that, like, let's say Elazer's best choice here is to literally just sit back and then maybe get like Spore Crawler Infestor or something, right? And tech up even more and then go into 3 bases very slowly. But that's not Elazer's strength. That's not where Elazer shines. And those are not his favorite kinds of games. So taking the gold, I do love that, right? Like, he needs to do something that is a little adventurous, because if he's going to do the exact same thing as soO, it's just not going to work. He did not scout the main base of soO at all, correct? Like, he has
no. I totally missed the Roach Warren. I was looking at the natural for the Roach Warren, and it's definitely in the main base. So no, he's going to go for roaches, but as you were saying, like, sitting defensively is going to be tough for him to do. This is scouted now by soO, as he also tries to get a couple of drones, but the Banelings get a really good connection. And this is going to be the slow and steady game for our red Zerg. But, I mean, if he can actually get this third base up with a Spore Crawler, I'm feeling a lot better for him.
Yeah, same here. I'm with you. These links should really go down at this point. Yeah, I mean, he's building 10 more drones. I love that, but now also get spores and roaches. Don't forget about, like, roaches, right? Because otherwise soO can just make a whole bunch of Zerglings and run Elazer over. So apparently 2 Banelings were hidden in the main base. You missed it, I missed it, the Observer missed it, Elazer missed it. soO did not. 9 drones in the end going down. Yeah, Elazer needs spores, roaches, and then he can think about droning up again. I'm just afraid that he goes too crazy on spores and drones. And then Zerglings are actually going to be the biggest problem here, rather than the Mutas.
They can be a concern, but that's sometimes the nice thing about having a Baneling, right? Or a Baneling nest, and then actually having Banelings, is that provided that you can defend them from the Mutas, that can be a bit tricky. They will hold against these Ling numbers for quite some time. But Elazer does get the third up. His Spore Crawler is already building. It's going to be finished, and he even has one around the reinforcement path, right? So the Queens aren't caught off guard. This seems like a very solid setup. Elazer has 3 bases, and is already saturated on his 2 bases because one of them's a gold.
Yep. I mean, the fact that we are actually looking at this game right now, is already astonishing because Elazer was in a bad position, right? But I think he's made a couple of correct calls ever since. I love that he went for the gold. I love that he didn't try to do the same thing as soO did when soO had the better economy, clearly. No, this is probably his way back into it. And don't forget that Elazer against Serral on Golden Wall, he was so dead just that I was willing to cast the game with my eyes closed, and I'm like, yeah, this game is over. Somehow Elazer won it. Still don't really understand what happened, but somehow he got the job done. Yeah. Maybe he can make one more miraculous comeback on Golden Wall.
I'm a believer. I think the weird thing that does happen, whether it's a third base or a natural, is that sometimes that drone count isn't actually enough to, like, we don't see 1,000 plus spikes in the difference of mineral income, right? It got to like 600 a couple times, but mostly 400. So you can start taking very efficient trades against a muted player, provided you play, I mean, perfectly defensively, right? If you can get to 3 bases, you can actually hold up on those 3 bases for quite some time, kind of bring it to maybe an even overall supply, even though the opponent has more bases and maybe a bigger bank and you know, frankly, more freedom. But Elazer can do it. It's not his usual comfort zone, but...
He's gonna push, actually, right?
Yeah,
like, he's been at 49 drones for a very long time. There is this big circling run, by the way, happening in the main base. Well, when I say big, I mean... It can deal damage. It's gonna be annoying to deal with. Let's keep it at that, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, Elazer is obviously on the... Elazer is on the clock, right? 46 drones against 64. He needs a fantastic fight here. He needs to keep his roaches alive. The queens definitely need to stay alive, get out of corrosive ball. And he does get that. The Ravager count is already so high for soO, and it's so hard to go down a ramp into Ravages, right?
It very much so is. Got a lot of transfuses, but not so many Ravagers of his own. And he still has to worry about those mutas if the queens ever do get bopped. Elazer is going to, I mean, he's still got that creep spree. He's still reinforcing very fast, and he will very soon have that upgrade lead. The choice to all in from these 3 bases might have been the correct call, but soO was already building his roaches. And that upgrade advantage, is it really going to be enough? 20 armor slide advantage, or the transfuse is going to be enough? No, the corrosive biles hitting the heart of Elazer's army makes this so one-sided. That is GG. The all-in was not the right choice. Hindsight tells us that, but playing out a macro game, the one I was describing, was also going to be incredibly tough.
It was, but it did feel at one point that, like, when you said, like, I kind of like his setup here, you know, with the queens, with the spores, and I was like, yeah, I could see this turning into a game. If the mutas don't find the openings, the mutas normally do, maybe it is okay to drop an infestation pit now, right? And to get a different response against the mutas. But that kind of goes back to what we were talking about 4 minutes previously in this game. It's like, that's not really Elazer. Like, he can do it, sure. I've seen him play games like that, but Elazer is a little similar to soO. They're in general not that big of a fan of the spellcasters, and they like to get other things going. Now, obviously, in Elazer's defense here, after that start, it felt almost impossible to really make this a close and competitive game. So I don't think we can really fault him for any decision he made. But well done by soO. His aggression got the job done. It worked fantastically on Everdream. It didn't really work on Zen, but it worked again on Golden Wall. And this does seem like a good map for these kind of builds, right?
The Golden Wall is such a mystery sometimes, but yeah, it can be very good for any types of aggressive builds. GG. soO continues the... since the first weekend, at least, the dominance of the Koreans against the non-Koreans. The Elazer is sent down to the lower bracket.
We stand as one. Are you gonna give me orders?